Welcome to Marketing Against Green Live. This session is from London, where we sat down with Gamma's Grant Lee and Kristin Fracchia, who built a $2 billion company with just 50 people. Now, Gamma have grown to 70 million users, and AI has fundamentally rewrote the playbook that they've used to grow and many other companies are using to scale their business. And that's what we reveal on this show. We talk a lot about how AI is able to turn every salesperson into a closer. We get into some of the things that are working at HubSpot, AI prospect, and many other things that you can do for your business and what's working in Gamma. So stay tuned and let's get into today's episode.
Joining us this lovely evening, we will talk all about growth, AI, marketing, and kind of how you need to be thinking about AI going forward. So we've got two lovely folks from Gamma here to join us as our special guests. And a few things I want to start off with. The big thing I want to do is that AI is fundamentally changing how companies grow. You guys just raised a big round today. Congrats. I built a $2 billion valuation company. If I'm reading the reports, you don't have to disclose. I guess to just start us off, what is the lessons of building like a high growth, high scale company in this AI era that's different than I don't know, when we did it at HubSpot, you needed a lot of people. It was very different than the kind of companies that are being built today.
Founders oftentimes think about, when they think about innovation, it's like you innovate on technology, you innovate on product. But I really believe that founders also have a chance to innovate on org design, which is how do you build a company from the ground up? And for us, we've tried to stay lean from the very beginning. We lean into things like hire generalists over specialists. We lean into this notion of, instead of like traditional management layer, we have player coaches, people that are really close to the work, kind of mentor and coach those around them. And like a lot of these small things that have just been baked into our DNA, how we operate, the culture of the business, I think have helped us to scale to where we are today. And just again, for us, just trying to think about doing a little bit different every step of the way.
We're going to kind of talk a lot today about how we actually scale and build with AI. Kieran, you and I, we're always hacking together stuff with AI. We're trying to build a really AI-first team and go-to-market at HubSpot. You all are empowering an entire generation of people to build first with AI. So I guess where I want to start is, Kieran, maybe you could kick us off with what's the current state of the state in AI? Like, what is the AI landscape in terms of where do you think product market fit exists today?
When I think about the internal applications and then the companies building for AI, the likes of Gamma, the other incredible stat is 70 million users. These companies, I call it, are able to do magic and grow in a very different way because you're able to unlock something magical that has never been a user could not do before. I have a friend who uses Gamma for all of his presentations, and his face lights up because he's able to do this magical thing that you were not able to do before. So there's this real virality to the way those companies are growing. We covered Gamma's marketing playbook a little bit on Marketing Against the Grain, creators, the way you kind of do paid and the way you've scaled. For the internal application of AI, we spend a lot of time trying to integrate AI across our go-to-market. I have been doing that for 18 months within HubSpot. I kind of break that into 3 acts. The first 6 months was a grind, and we really didn't get very far because the AI models were not good enough. The next 6 months, we started to see real signal in a certain couple of spots, which really is like personalization, AI prospecting, things like that. The last 6 months, as the reasoning models have got much, much better, AI has really started to transform the way we've done things internally. And so I think it is an incredible time to start to deploy AI across kind of go-to-market places. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that. And I think there's still a lot of noise in the AI space, and it's hard to decipher where AI will be a perfect fit for use cases. So there's a lot of experimentation and testing, but I have never seen so many internal pilots in terms of what we are doing, so much experimentation, and I've never seen companies grow so fast before that have really caught the zeitgeist on that kind of magical AI moment. So I think we are entering a year in 2026 where I'm going to start to see this as being interesting and impactful to truly transformative in the way we actually grow businesses.
I wonder from the Gamma side of things, how is that mapping up with what you're seeing from customers using the tool and actually, the types of use cases, what's being built today versus maybe what was built 6 to 12 months ago? And I'm trying to paint for everybody the trajectory we think we're on and kind of start to extrapolate into the future a little bit.
One thing I've noticed, so first of all, I have been with the Gamma team for, it feels like years, but I think it's been 8 months. And I have
a year in AI.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's been about 8 years, I think. And in that time, I have seen the Gamma product grow dramatically. As the models improve, the product improves together, exponential improvement. But one thing that I have noticed is that earlier on, people were sort of playing around with it a bit, right? It's fun. Make me a deck about fish, right? Not really using it for serious use cases. This year, we started to see more professional use cases. And that's something in our marketing we really wanted to get out there. We were using it for professional use cases. We use Gamma for everything internally. And so we wanted to share that with others. So we've supported that in our marketing, but we've also organically seen people start to adopt that more. And then the biggest change more recently, since we released our API, it unlocks a whole new range of ability to attach Gamma to other tools, right? So Clay to Gamma. I think Grant will talk a little bit about this in his talk tomorrow on stage at HubSpot Grow as well. You can take Zapier, make N8N, and really attach all those blocks of data sources, the walls of text, and get really amazing visual outputs in Gamma. And so that's what's really interesting to me right now is how people are really integrating Gamma into their workflows.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, if you're out there and you're thinking about this AI world, the creative work has taken a step function over the last 6 months in terms of the video models, the image models, especially the Google image and video models have gotten really good. We saw Weavy.ai got acquired by Figma last week. That is a really great team, and that is a AI workflow product, but just for like creative use cases, so that you can do 100 different revs of a social post, or ad creative, or different particular cuts of B-roll that you might want to test. And I think what you're basically saying is that's now just going to become default, that these classic creative use cases, making a deck, making a video, building an ad, are going to be workflowized in the same way that email campaigns and everything else were over the last decade.
We recently launched Gamma 3.0, but go back 2 years ago, you have Gamma 1.0. I oftentimes think about like 1.0 as this is for the AI tourists, right? They're going to come, many are going to leave. That's okay, but they're going to find what's interesting about your product and like be really crazy adopters of that. And then you get to your like 2.0 launch, and this is for your true sort of early adopters. They're still willing to put up with a lot of shortcomings of your product, but this is where they start pulling product out of you. They tell you all the things they wish your product could do, and hopefully you can listen, you build and iterate, and then you finally get to the point where you feel like you can launch a 3.0. And 3.0 is the first time you're actually going really after the mass market, right? Like, can these people that hate change actually embrace your tool? And that's the ultimate test. If you can do that, then you have a chance of being a tool that's going to be around.
Here's my biggest observation. The gap between the startup world and the AI world and the main street business world has never been bigger. It is enormous. Most people I talk to, they wouldn't even understood about like 5 words of what we've covered so far tonight, because they're just like, well, I hear about this AI stuff. What do I do? And I think you all have done things to drive adoption and learn how to get people who are just like, not that they're maybe skeptical, but they just don't even know where to get started. They do not have a foundation of information. And so maybe Kieran, we'll start with you, and then I want to go to Grant and Kristin around like, how should everybody here, if they're working on a cool AI product, think about reaching that kind of Main Street audience that just doesn't get it?
And I love the 3 kind of personas you put down in terms of Gamma's history, because I think that's the way I see any kind of AI usage, where if you're an early adopter like me, you're willing to put up with a lot of faults and you're willing to kind of iterate and try things. But if you're a person who just is trying to do their work, AI has to help you do that work better. You're not going to spend hundreds of revs. So I can give you some examples from trying to get, we try to get many of folks internally to adopt AI products and AI things that we build. I think sales are maybe the hardest persona because they are trying to hit a number. You're trying to interrupt them with new functionality. I can give you like one interesting story that I thought was fascinating. We had an internal use case where we kind of trained an AI avatar to replicate what our sales engineers team would do, right? So it's the entire training set. It can bring up the right visuals. It was a pretty incredibly knowledgeable avatar who knew everything about HubSpot. And that avatar would join a call and the rep would conversate with the person, and when there was a technical question, they could call the avatar, and the avatar would come to the forefront of the Zoom call and answer that question. Now, what was fascinating was the avatar was like better than the human because it had a far bigger knowledge base. It could answer any question, it could bring up the right visual, but if it was asked something that was not in its training set, it would not get that correct and would have to retrain on the call transcript. It would know it the next time. Now, if you are a person doing that job, you get some forgiveness. You get something wrong, you're coached, you get better. The human had zero tolerance for failure from the AI. As soon as the AI was wrong, they were like, I don't ever want to use this product again. So there was a very low threshold in terms of, I do not trust this thing. Data was a big part. When we try to show sales reps or customer success reps or customer support the next best action, this is what you should do because AI is telling us to do this thing, it didn't trust it unless you showed it sources and data. And then the big thing for any startup, what we have found, again, this is really for internal use cases, so it may not hold true in all use cases, is for the mass market, AI cannot be a different thing you use. It has to be within the current workflow. It has to be within how they already do something, right? So you're trying to like build into their current workflow, not try to teach them a brand new workflow. And I think that is some of the ways that we've managed to kind of crack adoption internally a lot in terms of a lot of the AI functionality that we've kind of built.
So here's what nobody tells you about building a startup in 2025. You don't need a massive team anymore. Gamma just proved it. They built a $2 billion company with 50 people. The HubSpot for Startups team teamed up with Mindstream to show you how the best AI tools actually work together. This guide gives you the 7 AI tools replacing entire departments, including Gamma, Notion, Claude, and more. It includes copy-paste prompts to launch products, hire employees, and find customers fast. It's completely free, and if you qualify for HubSpot for Startups, you could get up to 90% off year 1. Scan the QR code or hit the link in the description. Now let's get back to the show.
What have you guys learned? You've got 70 million users, and so you've had to learn how to do this at scale. What are the big lessons?
I think for a lot of categories, it's hard. Like a lot of this is outside of your control. Certain categories like coding, it's just very obvious. It doesn't. You don't need to spend much to educate the market. Everybody's just embracing it. And to be fair, Copilot had been sort of priming the market for many years, and then cursors come out. The cursors of the world would come out, and the market's already ready for it. I think for like areas where text is heavy in usage, it becomes obvious. Like there's a lot of adoption, customer support, legal's now adopting it much more. I think in our territory where it's much more multi-modality, I think people are still trying to like figure out how best to embrace it. And this is where a lot of the workflows come into place. And also just building a tool that feels familiar but different. I think you need to then like figure out how to actually tell that story. And candidly, we're still figuring it out. I think we benefit from a lot of our early adopters helping us spread the word, but still early days, overall.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things I know we've done at Gamma that have helped that might be helpful to others who are building an AI startup today. One of them is we have built Gamma to be very accessible. We've tried to abstract away a lot of the AI so that you can focus on getting the job you want to be done. And so ideally, you don't have to spend a ton of time prompting and fine-tuning and finagling in order to get a good result. But we're dealing with LLMs here, right? Prompting matters. And so something that we've been asked for a long time is to create a prompt guide, right? Just give people something to start with. So even though Gamma, I think, has done a very great job of solving the blank page problem, nothing is worse than staring at a blank slide. At least you can put in some thoughts and get something output. It's still, getting started, right? Finding the right way to get started and being able to have a good prompt in order to get a good result is really important. So, this week, we released our first prompt guide just to give some people some things to get started with, because once you can see something that works, I think you have a higher tolerance, right, for working through it later on. And the second thing, speaking specifically to our marketing at Gamma, that we've had to try again and again is to bring people back to the product. So one of the things that pains me the most is when someone says, "Oh, I tried Gamma a year ago," haven't come back. Like, you have no idea how much better it is now. And that's true for virtually every AI product, and ChatGPT and Claude as well too. And so that's something we do intentionally in our marketing, is find the moments to bring people back. So when we launched Gamma 3.0 in September, we did do a big marketing push about it. We talked about the latest features, and we actually saw a step change in our percentage of weekly active subscribers. So it was here And then it went like this. It was the happiest chart I've ever seen in my life, and it stayed there. And so, I feel like we brought people back, right? You're able to interest them again. And so I see the model companies doing this pretty well as well too, and I see other AI companies doing it too that seem to be standing out in the space. You have to be bringing people back constantly.
Yeah, I think the other thing that we've learned is the fastest growing AI product at HubSpot is our integrations with ChatGPT and Claude Gemini. It's because we bring the product experience to the new operating systems, whether they be browsers, whether they be desktop apps, whether they just be, a tab in somebody's browser itself. Like that, we are seeing the adoption and use of HubSpot, getting insights, building campaigns, doing an outline to go build a slide deck in Gamma, but doing that with the data from HubSpot inside ChatGPT is also something that I think is a real strategic decision that any company building an AI has to think about is how do I need to integrate and build alongside the next kind of operating system layers that are really starting to emerge right now.
I think the prompting one is a really interesting one because one of my biggest gotchas where, the thing I have to constantly remind myself on is the kind of difference between the consumer and me being in AI all the time. And one of the things I was really caught out by was when I was at Zapier, I was trying to overhaul the entire onboarding flow. And this was like pre-reasoning models. So I would just caveat where the AI was probably not where it was today. And I was so confident of natural language onboarding through the AI being much, much better than the click, click, click experience where the AI agent could build the workflow for you. I bypassed my usual 6-week sprint, build minimal viable. I was like, this is going to work. And what I realized was it didn't work, which was not good. It was embarrassing because it took like 3 months to do it. And it didn't work for like an interesting reason. It wasn't like the capability of the actual AI to do the work. When I looked at the call transcripts or the chat transcripts with the AI agent, people didn't know how to ask it for what they wanted. Mm-hmm. They were like, Facebook CRM leads in, please. Like, how am I going to do this? And so I kind of realized that like you have to. Today you can like ask open-ended questions to better pattern match into your RAG. There's ways around of doing that. It's why ChatGPT asks lots of questions to refine your own question. But I think that is a big part of it is like really staying close to the customer and how the customer experiences AI. Because when you're so in the weeds, your experience is very different from the person sometimes usually adopting it. The one other thing I'll just say, I wonder how you think about this. Kipp and I have talked about this on the show. I think one of the biggest problems historically for AI creative tools isn't actually the creation of the thing, it's the editing of the thing. The editing of the thing usually sucks and is the reason people have a bad experience and leave. And I'm wondering how you found that as part of like the Gamma journey and solving that.
We sort of had an unfair advantage in that we were building the editing long before we had the AI.
Right.
So we were building the editing experience so that it would be easy for the human to create slide decks easier without having a design background, design skills. And then about 2.5 years ago, we realized that the learning curve for even that was too steep. Most people don't have the time to learn a new tool. So we invested deeply into rebuilding the entire onboarding experience so that people could experience that magic using AI immediately. And that the marrying the two has been what's been really helpful. Now that the AI can pre-assemble and give you that first draft, you as the human can still go in and do all the editing you want.
Yeah.
I think that's been, for us, a nice little unlock for users.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Okay. Everybody here loves AI, and we also all love AI hacks. I want everybody to share their favorite AI use case. Personal, professional, just like the way you're using AI right now that you find just to be super valuable, brings you lots of joy. Who wants to go first?
I can share a couple, maybe one, and then I'll share a smaller one. So one, obviously, for us that I'm observing a lot of our early adopters of our API use is all centered around this notion of like customer communication. So, just imagine like you're an agency or a freelancer or a consultant, you have a lot of meetings with clients, and you might use tools like Granola to like record all the meeting transcripts, and you can immediately then take those transcripts, work with Zapier or Make, feed that into a tool like Gamma. All of a sudden you have the sort of presentation completely done. So it's such that by the end of the meeting, in their inbox, you have a recap of everything you discussed. You have all the deliverables agreed on. You have the timeline. You have the action items. And the client is super happy, right? So they know you listened. and there's a clear set of next steps. I feel like those are just going to be sort of no-brainer situations. We have one agency that's basically running their entire RFP process doing this, which used to take weeks, can now be done literally in minutes, 7 minutes end to end.
Granola data into a
meeting
bypass,
transcript,
then to create a deck
Yep.
with all of the follow-up and RFP info right
Exactly. Yeah. And then obviously future state, even enriching that with HubSpot data, like there's all sorts of magic that could happen. And that sort of thing where that level of automation just wasn't possible before. So we're super excited to see things like that. On a personal level, I still use Gamma for sure, but then also tools like Midjourney, where we tried to sort of open source our brand a little bit, where we share kind of the SREF codes we're using in Midjourney so that anybody can create the same brand assets. Me trying to pretend to be a creator myself, going on LinkedIn and X, it's oftentimes really helpful to create things that feel on brand. So having this thing where anytime I have, something I want to create, I can create a carousel that always feels on brand. That for me feels like a hack. I was like, oh, this is great. This is super easy. I couldn't have imagined trying to do it before. And now, and any day I can go in and create that sort of level of, quality that I've been looking for.
Okay, Grant stole my hack. Okay, this is gonna sound like another plug for Gamma, but meeting notes are the bane, or meeting follow-ups are the bane of my existence.
They're everybody.
So,
Not just you. We all.
This is true. Everybody at Gamma knows this. I'm like, AI note taker to Gamma is the best hack ever. You look great internally. You look great externally. You've got your granola, your Zoom transcript. Immediately 5 minutes later, here's the recap of next steps. Like, how many times have you had to like type in, okay, here's what we talked about, and recap for somebody who wasn't there, and this is what we agreed on next. So internally it works great. Externally, so impressive to be able to send off to a client or prospect right after you get off the call. So that is actually truly my favorite hack right now. But I'll share another hack, which is just generalized, and I don't think people do this enough, which is using AI to write your prompts. So I think you've talked about this before on the show, but I don't see many people do this. It's so underutilized. ChatGPT or Claude can write really great prompts for itself. So if you start with a task and you're like, I want an output that looks like this. This is what I want to accomplish, and ask it literally to create the prompt for you. I always get way better prompts than I would have come up with myself because I'm lazy, and I'll just say positioning statement for me, otherwise. Another thing I really love now is using Claude skills. So I have Claude skills plugged into all of my Claude projects for various things in marketing. This is my new favorite hack because all of my Claude projects now pull from Claude skills when they're relevant. And my favorite new one is the one I trained to not write like an AI, which was actually a really interesting anthropological study as I was watching it think through what looks like AI writing or not. And so now I have my human copywriter editor. It's not perfect, but we all can identify AI writing.
There's no M dash.
And this
There's
is
no
like,
M dashes.
It didn't tell me, it didn't identify M dashes or rocket ship emojis at first until I was like, what about the M dash? And it's like, oh my God, you're right.
You're right.
You're right.
You're right. I Claude love the M dash.
Yeah, it was really big on your overall parallel structure. I should share the whole list of what of the AI writing tells, but
that should be a whole LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
I would totally.
Now my writing is at least like slightly more human. It's a step change, more human than it was before. So just having that as a foundation and then you're building on top of it is so important. So really love layering the Claude projects, the Claude skills, getting all that context in there.
All right, Kieran, you're deep. You're deep in the AI.
Wizard.
What give us your top two?
One of my favorite use cases, and Sora 2 ruined it, is I have friends who don't know anything about AI, and I used to superimpose, I used to create many videos, mostly of Liverpool, because I'm a Liverpool supporter. They're not a Liverpool supporter. I apologize for people who are not Liverpool supporters. But like images of Liverpool when in the Premiership and photos of them in it, and then videos of Liverpool when in the Premiership, and I superimpose them in it. And then Sora 2 ruined it because I'm in these WhatsApp groups, and I have like my tech WhatsApp group, and then I have that WhatsApp group. And when Sora 2 came out, their entire conversation for the entire week was, why is my Instagram feed nothing but Stephen Hawking's videos doing like hula hoops and things like that? And they looked into it and realized that it was all AI. So a couple of ones. I'll kind of build on the prompt one first, and I'll go into a couple of others. The AI as a prompt engineer is really good, but one of the cool things is if you kind of build onboarding docs for custom GPTs, you can onboard them to skills in the same way you would do with an employee. So if you go to Perplexity and you say, hey, like create me an onboarding doc for someone I'm going to teach how to prompt GPT-5 to, you can take that onboarding doc and then use that to create a custom GPT for prompting for GPT-5. So I have like a ton of different custom GPTs that are onboarding different skills. That works really well. Claude skills is really, really cool. We built an app that we kind of showcased in the pod where you could upload a job description and you can have the app give you a bunch of skills based upon that job description that you can actually just use for your day-to-day work. A couple that I like, AI is really great at mimicking characteristics of people. And that was where I was originally fascinated by AI. So I have a custom GPT that will change its thought process based on what I asked it, right? So I've taught it first principles. I've taught it these different thinking methodologies. And so when I want to have a real conversation, I would say, now walk that back in first principles. And I walk it back in this, thinking methodology. And it's really good as a thought partner. I love it to red team ideas. I tell it to be really, really brutally honest. I give a prompt in LinkedIn where I showcased how you can make it be really brutally honest. And someone actually emailed me personally and said, I'm so thankful for that prompt. I cried. It was so mean to me. And I was like, ChatGPT is a great ChatGPT coach. If you ask ChatGPT based upon memory, what am I doing? Like, look at my memory. What way could I have used you better for certain use cases? What ways am I underusing you? It's really good at being a prompt engineer or a coach for itself. A couple of go-to-market ones I'll just kind of quickly touch on. A lot of them are my favorite right now are sales use cases. One of the big things that we want to do internally is turn every seller into a closer, because 35% of a salesperson's time is spent selling. Everything else is spent on the stuff around selling. And so the one I'm fascinated with right now is if you kind of spend a lot of time with sales people, they have to do a lot of discovery and qualification. So the first call, they're trying to figure out your budget. They're trying to figure out what you want the product for. And we are at the moment experimenting having that first call be done through an AI agent. And so the agent can have that conversation. Then we run through that conversation through like a LLM model, pull out the context, give it to the rep, and then try to get that rep to close the deal in one single call. Now that's very experimental. We're like very early stage. AI has been really great for all of our kind of workflows and personalization via email has worked really well in AI. We've generated about 30-40% additional meetings each and every month by just personalizing the email for the person. So those kind of standard ones work pretty well.
First of all, I have to represent the most underrated part of AI that never gets hype, which is just voice dictation. If you're not using voice dictation AI, you are just wasting an hour a day. I'm use Willow Voice. You can use Whisper. You can use the new Claude app has good AI voice dictation, but that is complete game changer, and nobody talks about it. Nobody uses it nearly enough. I talk to my computer, my little office, all the time, and it looks ridiculous, but it saves me a bunch of time. The other thing that I would recommend, pick your AI browser du jour. I tend to like Comet the best right now, whether you like Atlas or Dia or what are the others. I'm a very basic kind of person, and one of the things I always do is I find somebody who does something in marketing that I like, and I just try to figure out how did they do it and who did it. Because I want to hire the person who did it, and then I want to figure out the tech, the infrastructure, the strategy to do it. And what's great now with these AI browsers is that you can take an Instagram image, you can take a brand campaign, and you can just open a few tabs and drop like the Instagram posts in, drop the company website in, and then basically just tell it what you liked and ask it to reverse engineer how they did it. And they will give you the tech stack. They will give you the likely steps they did to do it. And then you can also then research who likely did it at that company. And you can do all of that in a couple of minutes. And I used to spend hours doing all that. And that's just like a hack to like figure out how, like what a cool marketing tactic might be in the future based on just what somebody else is doing.
Yeah, I saw someone do that with, have you used the new K2 model? I saw a lot of use cases with that and reverse engineering and research, and it is absolutely incredible. It's like my tomorrow night. It's just things on Kimmy K2.
You have the funnest night.
Yeah.
Those are a few hacks. We have a few minutes. We're gonna do a quick rapid fire before we end the show of biggest AI prediction for 2025. Kristin, kick us off.
Go.
Sorry,
All right.
2026. Sorry. Yeah. But I want 2025 to get the hell out of here. I
could probably be pretty good. I could probably be pretty good at that. 2026. So I think one of two things is going to happen. One, either we are going to see such a change in progress in LLMs, and none of this is going to matter, and we'll have all new predictions and playbooks. I think when we get lazy, we talk about the AI age today, right? But we're really talking about post 2023 ChatGPT coming out. Progress has been a bit slower this year, right? I don't think we've seen that same type of like change from what it felt like before there was ChatGPT to ChatGPT. If we have that type of improvement again, just imagine how much everything is going to change regarding what we're talking about. But if that doesn't happen in 2026, then what I'm seeing paradoxically in the AI age is you have both people wanting to use AI more and also wanting to be human more. And so we lean a lot more into experiential events. We lean a lot more into influencer creator marketing. I think I'm seeing that start to ramp up more with other companies this year. I think it's going to get even more intense next year as well too.
So bring back the human element, especially in go-to-market.
Yep.
Is your
Human.
prediction. I love that. Grant?
I'm going to go somewhere complete
I love that. Yeah, that's what this is for.
We're going to talk about autonomous vehicles. I think next year, autonomous vehicles, the growth rate's going to start dramatically increasing, such that it'll be, when you zoom out and look back, it'll be the sort of inflection point. And we look 4 or 5 years into the future, the percentage of autonomous vehicles will be greater than human-driven vehicles, and traffic is going to dramatically reduce because of that. And so we'll be able to get from point A to point B much faster because cars don't have to worry about hitting each other, don't worry about being bumper to bumper. And so hopefully, I'm maybe just trying to make sure that this happens in San Francisco because it's a pain in the butt.
I was going to say, you're
get around
you're
anywhere.
autonomous vehicles.
So I really want
already
Waymos to take off, and so that's my hopeful prediction.
I love that one. These are fun. Kieran, what do you got?
All right, I'll get to first one is somewhat random, but I think because the open source Chinese models are so good, it is going to put pressure on all the kind of conglomerate US models to do something rash, not rash, but to do something aggressive. And I think Google might put out Gemini 3, maybe launch it for free, lean into the fact that they can monetize that through paid advertising and force ChatGPT or OpenAI to actually have a free paid ads model. And I think that's coming anyway because that's why they hired, I think, the Instacart CEO. So I think ChatGPT actually have a freemium tier, a paid model, and the freemium tier will happen. I think they're going to have to do that to keep up with the fact that Google has such distribution leverage. The other one is this was meant to be the year of the agents, right? Like that was the whole thing, year of the agents, year of the agents. I will be honest, I think that AI is still not consistent enough to have true autonomous multitask agents. And I think 2026, the reason the models make it much, much better at being consistent so that an agent can do 3 or 4 tasks repeatedly, which they really cannot do right now, where it goes off the rails. And so we might actually see that kind of year of the agent come to fruition next year because from all the kind of signals, Gemini 3 and these models are going to be a step function better.
These are all really good. I'm going to give you 2 real quick ones. The first that I said a couple weeks ago on the podcast that I will repeat here, massive AI backlash is my big prediction, is that this gulf between AI and Main Street is going to cause a bunch of conflict, and there's going to be a big wave of anti-AI sentiment, and there's going to have a whole host of implications in this market, in the market you all work in. And I do think ChatGPT is going to launch ads. And I think if you're a marketer or you're a business, that's going to be a really great and valuable tool. And I think that will be one of the more interesting growth levers and discussions next year will be ChatGPT ads.
The last one, at some point, there will be a launch where us Europeans get it at the same time as you US.
Change your regulations, my friend. Change your regulations. I don't know. Okay, so this has been awesome. Thank you all for being here. And thanks again for joining us on this special live episode of Marketing Against the Grain. Thanks, everyone.
This data is wrong every freaking time.
Have you heard of HubSpot? HubSpot is a CRM platform where everything is fully integrated.
Whoa, I can see the client's whole history, calls, support tickets, emails, and here's a task from 3 days ago I totally missed.
HubSpot. Grow better.